can I get a thumbs up from the audience if they look good? Okay, here we go. So so why don't let's start from the beginning, right? Let's just roll back and such. If you can, raise your hand because you're the dad. I want people to know who's the dad. And so I want to talk with you about how you came into this culture or became aware of this culture of graffiti writing, given that you were so remote in Phoenix, Arizona. How old were you? And what were those first influences?
Well, I had got introduced to this East Coast subway graffiti in '83, and I had went to, I was in high school, walked up, saw some of my buddies, and they were talking about a PBS special that they had just aired called Style Wars, and just, Marilyn, I mean, it's still coming out blurry on this end. Is the audience, as long as the audience is seeing it clear, I think we're good.
Yeah.
We're good? All right. And so back then, of course, there was no Google, no internet, no YouTube. So I didn't have the luxury of, going and seeing that, the next day or later after school. So what I had to do was just to find out more about the subject of this graffiti that they call bombing. I had to go and hunt down books. So the very first book I found was the Getting Up by Craig Castleman. And so this blew my mind. And so I took it home and I started emulating everything that was, in a sense, I'm not using the word everything, but I was just so hungry for this. And I was just creating my own style, trying to create my own style, taking bits and pieces, and started drawing. One of the initial characters was the Howard the Duck. I saw Lee's work and, of course, others that were doing the Howard the Duck. And so I did one devious duck. And so I remember going into my dad's garage, grabbing a derelict spray can, went out to the alley, walked as far away as I could from our property. And with my right hand, I'm looking at my sketch. With my southpaw, I'm trying to translate what I drew onto the wall. And lo and behold, it came out decent.
Still blurry.
And so, that was kind of my kickoff there. And then we just moved forward. Are we okay on the image, Mayor? I'm seeing it still blurry on this end.
It looks good on my end, but can I get a thumbs up from the audience if you're getting a good image?
As long as the audience is seeing it, then
yeah, they're getting a good image,
okay.
So that's fine.
Okay, cool. Then I'm going to continue on.
So let me ask you something. How old were you again?
Well, it was '83, so minus 52, like 16.
Why are you looking at me for math?
My math. I'm terrible at math. My wife's probably laughing right now. I see you have the piece up that says Annette, and that's my high school. That was my high school sweetheart. And and then a comical story is when I was dating her, I really wasn't one to be like, hey, I went and partied, I did this, or we went and racked paint. I was kind of just on the hush hush. So I never told her what I did. And it was her girlfriends that had told her, hey, you're going out with the guy that writes on the walls. He does the spray paintings. And so she confronted me about it, not in anger or anything, just in conversation. And I said, yeah, I'm the guy. And she goes, I don't believe you. So we went out to a park one night, my girlfriend at the time, just teenagers, and I started doing it in front of her and gave her a can. She started doing some of the bubbles. But, it's just that youthful love. And, we graduated and then we got married in about 3 years, 9 months. Champ was born. 6 years.
And so what was graffiti? I mean, were you kind of one of the the pioneers, so to speak, of Phoenix graffiti?
Yes, he was.
I tell you what, I was, I connected with my friends and they were involved in b-boying at the time too. That first piece said High Style, that was High Style Rockers. And it was a group of us collectively out spray painting, but not everybody was involved in the art. They would just help us rack up or be the lookouts. But other than that, I mean, we combed the city as much as we could, trying to see if there was others out there. And I'm being honest and truthful. I did not see any during those years. And you can see from the pictures, I mean, we were off the US 60, which is one of the interstates out here, Interstate 10. And we were really doing a work out there. And so if someone was out doing something, we were going to see it. And again, this was all before the internet, right? You know, this was all before posting. So you had to kind of hunt for it. And the only thing I had was getting up. Later on, Subway Art was introduced to me by Robert Crumley, one of the guys that was from New York, and would mix the music and bring it here. We'd all copy it, the music. And then he told me about that book. And then, of course, Spray Can Art was another book. So that's all I had. And then in art school, I would look for Art in America, any type of snippet that I could find for graph, and I was so hungry for it. And so these images that are coming up right now are the early years. That's a better one.
And let me ask you something. In terms of the community response to graffiti all of a sudden showing up in Phoenix, what was that like?
Initially, I remember we did the racquetball courts at my high school, and it was just seasonal in December. Remember, I started the fall of '83, and so come December we did the whole Mickey Mouse with the Santa garb, and we wrote Merry Christmas. The next morning we had to line up for PE, and you faced that racquetball court, and I remember seeing like the administration, the principal come, and they didn't know what to make of it. You know, they truly didn't know what did the art students program do something. They left it up for several days, so they figured out it wasn't supposed to be there. So it was so brand new, and being an '80s kid, you know, of course, the student body and those around me, we just gravitated towards it, and so it was celebrated by the youth. Now, of course, you know, there was the opposition. Now, back then, though, Mayor, in Arizona, Phoenix, Tempe, if you got caught for doing anything with graffiti, you just got a field card. And if you got about 3 of them, then you had to do community service. It was a misdemeanor, but now it's a felony. So it was just so new. I think they just didn't understand what it was exactly yet.
It's interesting to me, this mural that we see, or this wall that we're seeing that says Kane, that you have a subway car illustrated. Was that something in reference to New York?
Absolutely. This is PCP Bombers. That was our crew, and this was Boz and Oz and Swift and myself, and we did this wall, and it was talking about cocaine, and there's the lyrics to the song there. But yeah, absolutely, everything to us was New York. That was the foundation for us, because that's all that we seen. So I'm emulating, you know, different letter styles. When I read Getting Up, I'm reading about Slave and Lee and Wicked Gary, the ex-Vandals. I'm seeing Zephyr's work, and so we're trying to actually copy all that, of course, during those early years. And I'm using stock tips, you know, whatever we can get our hands on. So it was all hands-on training, and of course the artwork looks very crude, but hey,
right.
That was
but the
messaging,
right? The messaging is interesting to me. Was there a cocaine problem in your area?
You know what? That I personally, I mean, it was around. I wasn't around it a lot, but it was something that that we thought the message, because if you look, there's the lyrics to a song on there, and it begins to talk about the city on that. So that was something that we thought, hey, you know, this would be cool to do, and
right.
Put out that message. So that's what we attempted.
Right, and continuing with the references. It seems to me early on, you really kind of gravitated towards pop art, to popular culture. You know, the Mickey Mouse comes up, and there's something really interesting in of course, the youthfulness of what you're putting up on walls.
Yeah, again, I'm looking at what I'm calling my own personal blueprint. Getting Up. When I saw Subway Art, man, it blew my mind. When I saw the documentary Style Wars, so I'm trying to emulate all that. You know, right here, you see a touch of Quick right here. You know, hey Quick, if you're watching. Yeah, but we were just exploring and trying new things. It was so new to the Valley, so we were just hitting it full steam.
Wow. Unfortunately, people are telling me that the images are looking blurry on my end.
Maybe
Shoots.
we can email in. We can send it in. I already did. Oh, there you go.
Well, keep in mind, folks, these are rather old images. Very old. Let's just see if I can zoom in. if that looks better. So this is one of your,
Right?
so this is interesting. This piece that you did, you spell out the word graphic, graphic. Was that why the name graphic, or why the tag graphic?
Again, this was us as the PCP bombers, and this is in the north neighborhood called La Victoria in Tempe, and it was a barrio. And to be honest, we were looking for creative words, stuff that we liked the letters, and we thought graphic, graffiti, so we thought that would be like a good word.
So you were
you
flexing.
know? Yeah, you know, it portrayed what, in a sense, the art aspect of it. Although back then I was never labeling it art. We called it, we were bombing. We were, you know, just getting down and getting up. And so that's where we came up with that as a group. And
yeah, what I find really interesting is, again, the themes, how you reference, you know, subway art and style wars and all that, and how that's starting to kind of live in Phoenix, Arizona, right? It's all this culture, and then you start getting better at both lettering and you know, character development like you do here, but you're hitting trackside. And you know, this is interesting because where else would you guys tag? What you know, what were the places to go paint graffiti back then?
We would get up off of, I was, at one point it was a duo, it was me and my partner Deb, and we were hitting the US 60, which is,
you know what, here, you know, one of the things I noticed, you started getting better with style writing, right? Obviously, and your character development is getting better. But interestingly enough, you're venturing out into the track sides. So when you were young, where did people go to paint?
We were, for a moment there, I was painting with another co-writer, Deb, and we paired up and we started hitting, because we wanted it to be visible to the public as well. So we were going off of the US 60, the Interstate 10, which are main highways, veins that snake through the cities here. And so we were getting up, they had the barrier walls up on top. And back in the 80s, it wasn't lit up like it is today. So we would get up on these walls, and then we would just begin to like just bomb and again try do our pieces. And so those were some of the spots that we tried to do out here, anyways.
One of the things also we can see here in this image is the influence of Bon Baudet with a junk waffle character.
Yeah.
And again, a little nod to scene with the blue,
Right.
and this one says no. Was that another name that you started writing?
No, actually, that's what they call it, government name, Noe, and they say Noe, and so I put my name on there.
Just like that, you gave your identity.
Yeah. What's up, everybody? What's up? So I want to continue on this because you start developing as an artist at this point. Given that you're developing your artistic skills with graffiti, are you seeing yourself as a legitimate artist or interested in a career in art?
You're talking about now in 2020?
And with this image that I'm looking at, you know, where you're next to the Merry Christmas piece. It looks like you're already well developed as an artist, right? As a graffiti writer. Are you thinking beyond graffiti at this point?
Still not so much. I'm just having fun. And this was with another writer, Red. He wrote Red at that time. And there was some other artists that were out there with us too. Group of guys out there from Phoenix. Zara was with us too. And we were out there painting. And so this was just, again, it says Merry Christmas. We're just trying to attract the public at this point. You know, and so it would take a little while before they would buff that. And so I'm looking at the picture. I'm kind of seeing it. It's a little blurry on this side.
We'll add the pictures on afterwards.
Okay, that makes sense.
Somebody said that zooming in helps with the clarity. I saw that comment right there.
Oh, I see.
See, it autofocuses in.
So how old were you when you painted this?
There I was probably, I'm gonna take a stab at it. I might have been 17.
Wow. So you're a 17-year-old kid. And so one of the things that's interesting that I find in the pictures that you sent me, that you took to the freights, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. My first introduction to the freights when I first touched it was actually late 80s. And we were skating around, me and Deb, and we painted on these freights. I think Bizarre was with us too. And we had tried to do a freight, but that metal fights back. And I didn't touch it again up until 1990. A Crayon came out here, and from SF, Crayon TWS. And so we were around that area again. And it wasn't until 92 when I really started getting into the freights at that time, and which was new. You know, you see a lot of cars covered back then. No, not so much. And but we had a yard out there that we called the Duster, short for the industrial park, and we would go in and just get creative.
So I want to know who was alongside you at that time that would be committed to graffiti and become known for bombing in Phoenix, Arizona.
Well,
what writers, what crews?
Well, the writer that I had with me here was Bizarre, and I know he's not doing the graph anymore. I think he's involved more in tattooing. And then Killer KA from New York came out, and so we were really hitting it hard at that point too. And BAD, TDT, the Blue Tribe, and he is still active out there in New York.
Hey, Crash,
what's up? And so so that would be one of the ones, and of course some of the other locals that we have here, Pez, Feist, ones that had went out and did some stuff. Did train with Feist, of course. Tato, Pride one. So these are some other local heroes that were here. Of course, I'm forgetting people, but I'm trying to stay up on that. And
so, well, one of the interesting things about your story, one, of course, that you're from Phoenix and you pioneered graffiti there, but also you introduced your son at a very young age. And we have a picture of him in the rail yard with you. So I want to know from you, why would you bring your adorable kid to this environment?
Yeah. You want to tell them? Champs says I'm the Father of the Year award for that.
So no one's called CPS in this game.
And you know what, Mayor? Me being 52, I look back and I'm saying, what was I thinking? And during that, my dear wife who's watching, I think she was out doing something, and I'm to mind the youngin' and gonna go paint or go venture out and bench in the yard. And so I took him along, and he had his graph uncles with him that would,
It was Kay and Feist that babysat me while this guy would be painting.
That's other writers.
Put me on the ladder.
And so,
Champ, do you have a memory of that time, of these early days?
Oh, absolutely.
Can you share some thoughts of you as a young kid with your dad?
Yeah. It was cool because it was like a playground to me. I had ladders and you get to see the cool pictures. I've always loved cartoons and art and all that. So it was like, oh, well, there's Uncle Kay and Uncle Feist. And, Dad's, we're all going to go get in his Nissan and, clamber in there. I would sit on, I think Feist's lap even, and then we'd go. And it was like, they would sit me on the ladder, let me climb it around a little bit. I'd go and find like rocks and stuff. I just remember though, I'd see my dad painting, and it was, I don't know. It was just something he did, there was really no like, oh, I wonder what that is. It was just, he just did it. That's what it is. And like, there's the art, and then we get to go to Burger King or wherever afterwards. You know what I mean? It was cool. It was a little family outing,
Such, did you ever feel that you placed your child in danger at any point?
Today, absolutely. But back then, no, not so much. It was very new in my mindset, or maybe to give myself comfort and telling myself this, but it was so new that there wasn't anyone painting the freights. There was a lot of activity going on. So it was very low key in industrial park area. So maybe that was, again, I may tell myself that today, the sense of security.
I love the comment. Somebody said it's bring your son to work day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next photo is very, very special. And I'm going to capture. Tell me about this amazing photo in front of us.
This was probably about 94, if I'm thinking correctly. And we went to Tucson for a symposium. And this is where we met Sandra, Lee, Lady Pink, Stash, Futura, Ali. And that in the picture, Ali is in that picture from SA crew. And then Martha Cooper, we befriended there. And then she actually snapped that shot. Yeah, that's her photo right there. A text from LA was out there with us too. But yeah, they had, he snapped that photo, and it's heartfelt.
There's a couple notable things in this photograph I have to point out. One, obviously, there's a cap throw up. Who did the cap throw up?
Oh man, that's a story within itself. Underneath that cap is actually a lead throw up, and I was coveting that, and then
it was gonna go to him.
And so so some youngster out there, he went and he wrote cap on there. I don't know, trying to be cute or what have you. And I remember Lee walked by and Lee looked and he goes, "Is Cap here?" And then the kid chuckled. He goes, "No." And I go, "Did he ever go over you?" And he goes, "No, but I guess he did in spirit, you know." And that's the story behind that.
The other thing that's notable is if on your part, Champ, you are gravitating to the spray paint.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't pose him there.
No.
I didn't want it to be a cute picture.
In fact, I wasn't allowed to go near.
Yeah, I had to keep him away from the paint there. He just kept getting into it and lining it up, and oh yeah, it was terrible twos.
Yeah, and also what I notice and I love is that you have your Puma suedes with fat laces.
Yeah, you do.
Like a true little b-boy.
So yeah.
So this is terrific because, you know, Champ, you're getting kind of indoctrinated into this culture very, very early on. Tell me about your first piece, your first tag, that when your dad allowed you to start painting.
Yeah, not that fun. Man, where do I start with that one? I would, I would always draw it. With graffiti, I remember that, like I was grounded. Elementary school, watched the Style Wars,
But you've gotten grounded, and I told him, no video games, no TV, but you can watch a documentary, go in my art room, grab something, and read a book. And he grabbed Style Wars, and then I'll let you.
Yeah, after all the Nat Geos that he had, it goes to Style Wars. Watch that movie. Long story short, I was bit. I wanted to do it. I already knew what it was, but I wanted to do it. And it was really cool because Dad would be like, "Hey, look, there's Crash." I was like, "Oh yeah, there is Crash." After meeting him a couple of years prior.
Yeah, when you saw Style Wars. Yeah.
Anyways, I wanted to paint. I was already drawing, but I wanted to paint. And so this is what he did for what I was allowed to do. He took a piece of corrugated metal in the backyard, and it was like, what, 4x4, 3x3?
Something like that,
yeah. And it had this ridge on it, and it sucked. Anyways, I wanted to paint with those Rustos and Krylons he had there. No, he just gave me a bunch of crap Walmart paint and goes, "Well, if you really want to do this every day after school, you're going to do a letter." And gosh, did I hate it. Like the paint, it was super watery. It was crappy water, paint. And so it would go into the metal and then it would just slide. I had to do every letter of the alphabet and it just sucked. So I'd say the first thing I painted was the letter C, the drippiest, sloppiest letter C you've ever seen,
And when you started realizing that he wanted to get into this art movement or this culture, how did you guide him through it in terms of legality and illegality?
That was a struggle for myself. Before he got into the graffiti art aspect of it, he was already a good artist. He could draw well. And so when he connected with this, and I knew the road he was going to go in, it was tough because if I'd be in the city and in his high school years, I go down the road and I see a champ up on the wall. Part of me is like, oh, mijo, I don't want you to risk getting in trouble. At the same time, I'm like, oh, bravo, that looks good. So
Were you giving him outlines and pointers?
Yeah, well, I would work with him on that, and that's what he was talking about. He hated it.
I would try to.
You know, the whole Miyagi thing. I would turn the lights off on him.
It
and
gets
said we had
worse.
the moon. And
I finally figure out, oh, okay, this is how you do a clean line. You know, I could bypass the drips, you know, and yeah, right. I would do that. And then I remember at some points he would turn off the lights and it would be dark. And I'd be like, what? I'm still painting. He'd say, too bad. Either the cops came or the train's going to pull out. You got to live with what you did. And it was like, are you kidding me? I'm in the backyard, you know? And then then he'd tell me, all right, you're going to go paint, but no lights at all. And I'd be like, how am I supposed to paint? You go, well, my light was the moonlight. Or he would go, my light was the moonlight. So all this crap, you know, playing through the chaos and the elements, you know, and he would sabotage me.
and it was challenging because, again, I'm trying to put him in an environment. Of course, you know, it's not the reality of really going to a train, but I was just trying to get him the experience that I experienced, so to speak. And I know it may come off a little corny and stuff, but once he was able to move on, he had a little training underneath his belt, you know. And as a father, that was, you know, there's this one time when I decided, I'm going to paint a Baudet character. I'm so tired of letters. I want to paint characters. I love characters. I go out, I grab some Krylons. He's not going to miss them, you know, and a couple of Rustos. And it's like, I'm going to paint it. I painted the best I've ever painted. Like, at that time, we still have it up. Anyways, I go out, I'm excited. Hey, Dad, look what I painted. He came home from, I think, church or work. I'm trying to remember. One of the two.
One of the two. Lead him out in the back. And he's like, wow, that's actually pretty good. Good job. And then he looks down and he sees all these Krylons, and the colors are like John Deere yellow, icy grape.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. One of my dear friends, Uncle Kay, he set down some vintage paint. And of course, you know, Champ got into it. And so it was the whole Sandlot where they're playing with the baseball that's signed by Babe Ruth type of deal. We laugh about it now, but back then I was,
how were you getting your paint back then? Were you stealing it or buying it?
Oh yeah, in the 80s, yeah, I was racking up. That's, you know, a part that I don't, you know, share too much, but you know, that's the way I was getting things done. And so, no, someone made a comment. But at any rate, you know, that's, you know, and then as the years progressed, then, you know, more into the 90s, I started purchasing paint, you know.
Did either of you ever get caught?
I did. No. You didn't. With graffiti or stealing?
Yeah, with graffiti.
With graffiti, no. I got some good stories for you, but no.
No, again, it's in a way, it's interesting because as we are kind of listening to your story, it's kind of like, oh, it's so cute, Dad kind of like teaching his son art, but really Dad is turning his son into a criminal, so to speak, right?
Hey, it was all of use too.
Hey, yeah.
Look at that picture. You see that Dondi right there, you know?
Good point. Strong point.
Yeah. So Champ, I want to talk about you developing as an artist, because one of the things is that you start developing as an artist and finding a very distinct style for yourself. How early on, were you trying to differentiate yourself from your dad, or was it kind of this assimilation? Because there is something about the relationship that there is a kind of uniformity in the artwork.
Believe it or not, it was more of I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. You know, it was, you know, when I would paint with my dad, we always, you know, we have our jobs. We still have our jobs, you know, and it's like, all right, well, you know, I guess this day we're going to be doing some fading. We're going to paint a bunch of cactus. And eventually I got tired of that. I already was drawing cartoons. You know, I have a huge love for it. Max Fleischer, you name it, Tex Avery. But with these characters, it was very like, I want to paint what I like. I want to paint the things that I love, you know, memories, et cetera, et cetera. But a big part of it also was, it's actually kind of funny to look back at it now, but there'd be times where my dad would be like, I don't know what, I'd be like late teens, even early 20s, and my dad's, well, he's a dad. So he would be like, I'm going to add some shadows here, You know, can you do that? Oh yeah, sure, go ahead. You know, and eventually it would get to a point to where if he would so much as maybe just put one little line or add a shine or something, that's when everyone would come and notice and be like, wow, Such, that's a really cool Howard the Duck you painted. Or, you know, the news freaking comes and see, you know, him painting Batman or something. Mm-hmm. So I kind of had this thing of like, I don't touch my pieces at all. You know, I did this. I want to, you know, do this. And that's where I just kind of started to, I think, separate even more. It wasn't that I didn't want to not be like him. It's more like I would try to be out of his shadow. You know?
Right. What was it competitive at all? Did you guys feel competition amongst each other, or was it just inspiration?
Nah,
inspiration of anything.
He's more talented than I am.
He says
I'm
that.
being honest. I'm just being polite. And these days, I lean on his understanding of art when we're doing something. And so, yeah, I mean, I when I call myself, I'm a seasoned amateur. You know.
Well, you know, one of the things that's really fascinating, as people may have noticed with some of these slides, a duck comes up. The Howard the Duck keeps returning. And this painting is interesting because it's, of course, an homage, but also you're paying an homage to, of course, Lee with Howard the Duck. Then we see kind of like little Futura characters. And then if we go up above, we see little Keith Haring characters. And so you're really playing this homage to New York City. Tell me about this project and what inspired you outside of the people I mentioned to pay homage.
This was actually an event that was set up by Pete Brennan up in Oakland, San Francisco, and Patty Astor had come out, and it was the anniversary of Wild Styles, of the 20th or 25th anniversary, and the Ex-Vandals came out there. We befriended Wicked Gary, Coquito, and so when we were out there, that's exactly what it was. We were going to pay homage, and that was the theme, I guess, so to speak. And so that's what was attacked, you know, and that Howard the Duck, that's Champ right there. I did the background. I didn't touch that Howard the Duck. And there's a black book underneath them, and we had Patty Astor sign it with a gold spray can. And so it was a really cool event.
It was how can we, well, pay homage?
Yeah,
you know, do you justice? You know, like you paved the way. You know, yeah, I have somewhat of a skill set on this. How could I thank you for that?
And that's because at the end of the day, when you see our work, you're seeing decades of subway work that you guys were doing. You know, Crash, Sonic, Zephyr, Lady
Say
Pink, Say Adams, Aldiaz,
Mark Baudet.
Yeah, Mark Baudet, Zephyr, and that you guys had done. And so it's embedded within me. So it always has a voice when it comes out when I'm doing a piece, one way or another.
And so it must, again, I see that when we've spoken, you speak with high reverence about meeting these guys and them, you know, coming to Phoenix of all places. And it's like you're kind of a fantasy come to life, isn't it?
Yeah, no, actually it is. When I met Crash, such a generous,
awesome.
good-spirited person. And I'm going to tell you this, Mayor, that was one thing that left an impression. And when someone says about, hey, you met the New York greats, there's one thing you guys have, the ones that I met that have a common thread is your guys' generosity and kindness that you guys shared. And it blew me away. And so that's something that, you know, I'm always going to forever be grateful. Of course, Zephyr, who's become a very good friend of our family, and this is an homage piece too, which Champ did.
Well, that piece was everything that Zephyr liked, you know, like, you know, Big Daddy Roth, you know, and of course I had a little bit of flavor, you know, my own here. But, you know, when he talked about that, I was like, oh, I'm going to paint a rat mink on this, you know, love the rat mink, you know, and it was just like with the subway car up top. There you go, Howard the Duck again. We got the little Pac-Man ghost. And
those letters, that's done by Zephyr. We got to paint with him. That's Zephyr. That's actual authentic Zephyr right there.
It was a privilege. You know, it always is a privilege with any of you to paint with you. It's a privilege, you know?
And so as this culture starts growing and changing, if we look at your work, right, in terms of how you develop, I wanted to know about this in particular, you know, kind of the focus on character development, and why is that so? I guess you love it, but is it because that's more accessible than the letter form to people in public?
I personally, again, I'm looking at what you guys did on the subways, and a dessert to me, and this is just me, no right or wrong out there, you know, but I see a character as dessert, but I have an understanding that the letter form and structure is the main course. And so I always like to complement it, you know, mix it up, because for the writer, of course, but then also, you know, for the general public. And yeah, these are neat because stuff that I was doing before he was even born, and then him later on in life to do it. Even we did the same, like not intentionally, but I made like a gesture in the photo, and then he did the same thing. And it's DNA, right? DNA and paints, I suppose.
Right. And I want to highlight this because this is fantastic, right? This is you in the mid 80s doing a phase piece. And again, the duck character shows up with a bomb. And then years later, your son picks it up and completely refines.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the painting's better and the paint quality is better now. And again, it's really passing the torch, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it truly is.
You did a
And
good job.
Of course, it's in the 80s, and we're painting by the moonlight. It's a crew. I think Boz and Oz rocked the letters. I came in with the character and the different things. We had our lookouts. We were the Phase Craze Posse. But the word phase, we're looking at New York, where these words are coming up. And so we're gravitating towards those and using those and making it somewhat of a monument, or memorial, rather, when we do our work. So, yeah.
So, Champ, tell me about this working relationship with your dad. It seems like you guys have a professional business together. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. And how as an artist do you do commercial work and then you do your private work on the side, or is it just the commercial work that you guys produce together?
Right now, it's pretty much the commercial work. Yeah. When we have gallery shows, museum shows, you know, of course we can be a little bit more free with what we do. But I mean, and I'm going to be transparent with you, when you're doing a commercial project, you know, sometimes you're just a human, you know, printer, so to speak, you know, because the client wants something, and so you got to appease that. You got to eat. Mama's got to eat. We got to, you know, pay the bills.
They want pink with polka dots. You give them pink with polka dots.
And so, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that work. But it's nice when we're able to go out and do our thing. That's always going to be my first love, of course. But I'm grateful that I'm able to do this, you know.
But man, when we get to paint whatever we want, that's like, it's like Christmas. You know?
Well, and that's the one thing. This slide, the Gato by Such, and of course Champs on the opposite side, and this brings me towards the topic of identity, right? Of culture, of embedding your culture into your art and representing through this art. And this was, you know, of course, a shift for you guys to kind of really dig into your roots. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about, you know, the Chicano roots, and how important that is in informing the work that you do sometimes.
Well, I grew up in the south side of Phoenix, and a neighborhood called it B19 back then. I don't know if it still has the same name, but what I was drawing back then was everything that was kind of around me: quinceañeras, the lowriders. Like when I first heard the word bombing, I thought it was La Bomba. I thought it was a classic lowrider, you know. But that's always been a part of me as an individual. It's part of my makeup, in a sense of culturally growing up and with family. And so I know now that art wasn't as celebrated as it is now in 2020. But I'm glad that I can dig back into that. You know, I mean, I would remember the oldies I would listen to were imported out of, someone would import them out of Florence prison and to our family, and then we'd be able to listen to them. You know, that's all I'm gonna say about that. But it was just a whole different growing up, you know, as a young kid growing up. And then these are actually events that we did at some of the museums, and this is Dias de los Muertos. And so this was one that you had pretty much done. I think I did the candles on that, and that was it.
It's a caricature of me and Dad.
Yeah,
that's us.
Yeah. So Champ, tell me about this. That all of a sudden you find your work in a museum. What an achievement. Was that anywhere in your kind of, trajectory when you were creating art as a kid?
This might sound corny, but growing up with dad painting, being in the yards, especially in the yards, and then going to these events and watching them paint, and you already know, you wait your turn, you watch, you enjoy it, and as the generations go, all that was on my mind was, man, I look forward to painting with my dad. I look forward to painting with the people that were always around us, So the museum, I'm not going to say it was like a main goal, but it was like, hey, if the herd is over there, that's where I'm going to go. That's where I'm going to hunt. It's wherever the road would take
For
me.
your word to be seen.
Yes, yeah. Yes. But no, it wasn't. But man, I mean, I could say no to it. It's
No,
awesome.
for sure. But the other thing too that I think I like about what you guys are doing is that you're injecting your indigenous culture into the work, and it's powerful to give that back to your community, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, this is done actually in Guadalupe, the neighborhood where I'm from, where I'm living now. Where I'm from, but I'm living now currently. And this was, it's called Hello, like Hello, my name is sticker. It's called Hello, my name is Guadalupe. And so it was just, at that time, the mayor and the town councilman, Joe Sanchez, my cuñado.
It was more accepted back then for us to paint.
Yeah, and so this is, and it still stands today. Of course, it's very, very weathered. Yeah, it's nice to do that. And again, I'm coming with the use of spray paint, doing freeway walls, right? And so now we're using that, and I'm twisting it, so to speak. I'm using it for a different depiction of art, I should say. But yeah, I'm grateful that I can do that. That's true, Mayor.
So given that you do these culturally rich murals, and also, it's like you give back to the community. You guys you do a lot of community service. You give back to your community a lot. Tell me about the reasoning behind that.
Do you want to jump on that, or do you want me to say?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to kind of steal some of Champ's words. Of course, these past years, it's been challenging, and it's been sad. It's been heartbreaking. And when we do something, we want to put our best foot forward to represent our people, and we are doing something. And we hope we do that with good conscience and good motive. We don't want to take advantage of anyone because of the suffering. And so, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, well, I mean, like it's with everything that's been going on the past year, I'm not even going to get into that, but like to represent, our ancestors, to represent our familia, primos, tios, everyone, our ninos, our ninas, everybody, as a collective, we are one, and, we want to do is give back, not take, not use it as some sort of platform to elevate ourselves, but more like how can we elevate our family, our whole, our entirety, our people, I mean, it's one thing to be, recognized, for inspiring people, but it's another to actually be recognized by helping people. And I think that's the big one,
I mean, in a sense, it becomes a ministry of help.
Mm-hmm.
It's not real looked at as grand or fancy, but to simply even be polite or be kind to someone that speaks. And when we paint, he's painting or I'm painting, and we're toggling back and forth, and we're doing what I call our outreach. So we have communication and dialogue, and we've heard people, elders, say, "Oh my gosh, we had you guys pegged wrong or stereotyped, but hey, you guys are okay people." Well, I guess today we are, but we
all bleed red.
Yeah, we try to be decent,
So this kind of service is, from, let me just go back to that other slide. My thought was that the actual work is not just the service, it's also that you here, as you illustrate, to a kid how to use a spray paint, it kind of echoes back to how you were teaching champs how to find creativity, right? And you know, through creativity, many people find salvation. Some of us have found damnation through it. But the fact that you've created a pathway, you create a pathway for your community through art, which is important. But it's not just graffiti art; it's kind of the heritage-based art as well.
This photo here was actually through the city of Tempe, and the mayor was out there, and he was actually engaging with the spray paint, and I joked with him, Mayor. I told him, I said, hey, I'm gonna send you a bill, and he goes, what for? And I said, for all the work I did in the city off the freeways in the 80s. And he got what I was joking about. We were about the same age, but he was he laughed it off. He was a good guy, and so I'm saying all that that in light, but back then at one time it wasn't looked at. Who would to share what we can do? I mean, I never dreamed, Mayor, that you'd go into an art store and there'd be spray paint for art purpose. It was made for industrial purpose, and you guys manipulated it. I try to emulate that and fumble my way and be clumsy with it to try to produce something on the wall. But for today, for it to be available, I mean, 2020. I mean, it's. I'm just talking about the art with the use of aerosol. It has definitely changed.
I mean, if I look at this piece, right? I mean, really, the control, the quality of the painting, that it reminds me of the quality of the old acetates from the old animations, right?
That's Tex Avery.
Yeah, that's Al Champ right there. He studies cartooning.
I'm a huge Tex Avery nut. So, that's when actually I came up with the hands through eyes, is because there's that scene with the coyote, and he sees Little Red Riding Hood and whatnot, and he just, the guns come out of his eyes shooting. And that's like, we do have some spray paint, and then that's when, you got the tongue going all crazy, you got some Max Fleischer elements there. You got some Bob Clampett, Chuck Jones. Yeah, I'm a huge anime nerd. I'm an animation nerd, not anime. But
right. No,
yeah,
I mean, what I like collectively, you guys have a kind of a broad, how do I put it, arsenal of styles and techniques that your work, you go from that to something like this, which again starts going into the realm of photorealism, tell me about venturing off into this kind of space, this type of painting for you, in terms of the challenge, given that you're you love animation so much, and all of a sudden you have to do something realistic. Who handles this kind of painting, or is it kind of equal? Okay,
no, this is interesting because that painting there, the outline is done by him. He can translate an image onto a wall better than I can. I can do it, but it's going to take me longer. And when you're on the clock, you want to knock it out.
It's just the skeleton. All I am is just a shortcut when it comes to that.
So he does all the lines and the curvatures and everything, and then I start doing my thing, filling it up, and together, he's part of me, and he's stepped back and he's sharing like, hey, let's try to shade this in more. It needs shading here. And I step back, let's put some light here. And then we fitly form it together. And so this is what we do. And I enjoy, I always
that one's 100% him. He didn't need me for that, man.
I always enjoyed painting animals. I'm not too certain why. I did okay with animals. And I'm just, it's something that I think it's part of me that I really love. We're members of the local zoo.
Well, you got a pack of dogs now.
Yeah, a pack of huskies. And so with me doing this, I don't see it as labor. I really love it. It's one of those things where I'm like, oh, you guys want animals? Okay, cool. Then I can really lock in and engage.
Let me say something about my dad real quick, though, is that the thing about my dad, though, is that the only shortcut would be me. That one he did all by himself. I think the only reason why I was there was just to take the freaking picture. But my dad is I call him the samurai. because when he was doing that, he was like, it was all Krylons, all Rustos, you know, even Kmart paint, you know, and
Wow.
no projectors, none of these shortcuts, you know, no paintbrush.
Not there's anything wrong with that. I'm not trying to get into that
but
conversation.
what I'm saying though is that
for ourselves.
But my dad's extra. He's 100% with that. You know, even when he was venturing into the Chicano art, you know, back in like, you know, 70s, 80s, it's like, yeah, it was done with the brush, which is, you know, for not centuries, but, you know, decades, you know. But my dad was the one who introduced it with the spray can. You know, now every Tom, Dick, and Harry does it because it's so, you know, marketable now. We're kind of going through that. But with my dad, he still goes, you know, he's a slow painter, man. But he'll go with that Krylon and he'll still, you know, get that same quality, you know, whereas some people are like, is that printed? Is that, you know, and it's, I mean, the guy could pretty much.
Mayor, I get lucky with animals. You know, I sound weird, but I just kind of engage and it just kind of, it works in my favor, so to speak, you know.
He's like Caravaggio.
I'm not trying to sound like a jerk or anything, you know, but, you know, everybody has their way, you know, everybody has their way on how they're going to achieve something. But I try, for right now, I try to stay loyal to what I learned, you know, looking at those books and meeting you guys and having conversations.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
and here, I one of the things that I liked, I looked at this and I was like, oh, I mean, that panel looks so real. Tell us about these two paintings.
These are actually hanging currently in the Musical Instrument Museum here in Phoenix, North Phoenix, border of Scottsdale. And this is on their permanent collection, and this is their hip hop exhibit. And they had reached out and they were building an exhibit, so they connected with us. And so it's able to, you know, and this was one of those things, Mayor, once again, we're like, hey, we want subway cars. And I'm like, oh, excellent. So this took me a little bit of time here, but I wanted to come out nice, and I was paying homage. And you can see the tags on there. There's different tags and information that are on there. Sonic, Zephyr, of course, say Adams, Nick One's on there, Killer K.A., Crash, X-Vandals, Rocksteady as well. Why Not if you're watching, Flags if you're watching. We got one on the pillar. And so this was me once again, Killer K.A., doing what I loved and able to shine and then get a commission for it. So this was truly done out of, I guess, within my soul when I did this. I really had a good time doing this.
My dad part of the irony in all of this, and is that you would later do a commission piece for the light rail system. Yeah,
for the light rail. And they had,
tell me about this.
Yeah, the city had a program, and they were selecting artists, and I was one of the initial ones. I'm gonna say that was selected. And at that time, they took your image and they wrapped it on this wall. This is one of the stations there, Central and Roosevelt. And then they would take the images and they would put them on the ceilings of the light rail, and then in the city buses, and then up on the placards. They did all that. Now, what they do is they allow your work to be actually wrapped on an actual car. And my beloved friend Tato, he's running right now with one.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the last artist, graffiti writer I was the straight painted with. But yeah, and I was like, oh, I would have loved to see this on a car. But yeah, exactly. It is the irony.
Shout out to Tato.
Yeah, because it started in '83. I never, ever would have thought. We didn't have the light rail back then. But yeah, I never would have thought. And it's true. If someone back then said, hey, you're going to do a station for the light rail, what, we're going to have a light rail? I wouldn't have believed it. So yeah, you're right.
So we're at a really interesting impasse between vandalism and commercial art, right? And that, and on the one hand, you get these projects where the city, the government accepts you and utilizes you to beautify either the community or, like in this instance, the light rail.
Yeah.
And where do you stand in terms of the illegality of it and the legality of graffiti? And given that there are bombers, there are always going to be bombers, and then there's a whole new generation in Phoenix of really talented muralists.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I with myself, because of where I came from, I have an understanding of the hierarchy. Maybe that's a lack of better words, but of where all this stands. And I understand without that embryo stage, which I'm calling it, without that seed of vandalism, we wouldn't have what we have today. And I understand that. I'm not a blind eye to that. I'm not trying to be cute or what have you, but I understand it's respected. For me, I respect it in its area and in its own right. I have an understanding of it.
No one invented the wheel here.
Well, it's kind of like you have a lion in the Serengeti. I don't know if that's the region that lives in Africa, but you have a lion, and then you can go to a zoo and see a lion. I understand it has its place, its appropriated place, and so that would be my answer to that.
Right, and giving placement and in terms of where you both are in terms of your career, what do you aspire to in terms of where do you want to see your art, on what do you want to see your art, and as you think about the future of your careers?
Well, I'm a grandfather now, Champ. They just had our granddaughter.
Congrats.
And so it's a new chapter for me, Mary. It really is. It's a new chapter. And it's a new piece of my heart that I did not know existed, as far as loving even more.
Leah, if you're watching this, you need to be in bed.
Yeah, really. And so, so I'm kind of shifting, but I do understand that I still, have my projects. I still have my things to do, and I have my goals. He's got probably greater goals than I do. He talks to me, and I'm just like, "Are you serious? That's not gonna happen." And then he makes it happen. And so. So I might ride his coattail towards the tail end of this.
But how does this happen for you, given that you have a formal business together, and your son may want to like stretch his legs out into something else, right?
Yeah, and he is. But when I'm out there, Mary, we are working. I'm having him more handle the business aspects. I'm telling him I'm not always going to be here, so you need to keep this going. But he does. He has other pans in the fire, great pans in the fire. He's got stuff happening, and I want him to excel more than I do. That's what for both of my sons. We have two boys, his little brother too, and so, and I commend him on what he's going to do. He's still young though. He still has much to learn.
So Champs, tell me what I think forward thinking, right?
Yeah.
How do you see yourself artistically in the future? Like in terms of how you are applying your art and shifting your career, shaping your career.
I want to, I don't know. I kind of want to try everything. I mean, like I want to make cartoons, I want to make toys, things like that. But just because those are fun things. Those are things I love. And something that people can enjoy, even with some of the events that I've kind of built, out of pocket even, everyone's welcome to those. I don't care what you are, a muralist, street artist, graffiti writer, bomber. It's just sticker fiend, come to the event, enjoy it, and enjoy the show. What I want to do is I want to, not just that, but like create opportunities. Not so much like like the dozens of construction companies posing as art hubs. No, I mean somewhere where let's all just get together, let's have some fun. You want to paint a wall, let's paint a wall. You want to show off some canvas, let's show off some canvases. And it's just, I think the main drive is enjoyment, but not just that, but knowledge. If there's anything that I'm kind of a known stickler for, it's like, hey, the forefathers, man, you got to know who started this, who the original seeds are.
So there's no question that both of you will continue passing this on to your younger kids and your grandkids.
Yeah,
if she wants it.
If they want to embrace it, yeah, I would definitely, I want to share what I have, and what I have is hers anyways, but yeah, definitely. And I look forward to that if that happens. And if she wants to do something else, hey, I want to pour into that as well.
Come on,
yeah,
come on.
Yeah, really.
What I've been fascinated over the years is the rise and female writers,
right.
And muralists, really amazing, talented groups of women out there in the world that have embraced their artistic talents and you have unique voice in this space. So yeah, who knows? Maybe, you know, maybe
Thank you,
your
Nelson.
daughter will
Thank you, Pastor.
be the next one. So very quickly, for the folks out there, if you have any questions before we sign out, please chime in. This has been really wonderful, man, and it's amazing to have you both here.
Thank you.
You got Nicer on here, you have Ian here, you had Madman Art here, and so I have to say, you know, before I get a question, I want to thank you for taking this idea that, you know, young kids before my time, you know, created and kind of passed along, you know, generationally, you know, and that it would end up in my world and many other people's worlds, and that you would advance it in a kind of a remote place, and really just again bring it integrity, and also again pay homage to many people who the world forgets, right? And this is why we have the museum, because we want to remember some of those names, and also we want to remember your name, right? I think that's part of why we do these artist talks. So it's been a privilege to kind of have this conversation with, you know, kind of the first father and son duo in this culture that I know of. So really, on behalf of the museum, I want to thank you both for participating.
The gratitude is the other way around. It means so much to me, especially where I came from. Just speaking to you, Mayor, reading about you guys, and then befriending you guys, and then reciprocating that, just that love and generosity that you guys shared and poured into my life. It means a ton. I saw a question from Adrian Dominic. It scrolled up.
It was fat cap and valve system. Your favorite fat
Yes.
cap and.
It's the New York fat. That's pretty much what we do now. You know, it works, and it seems to fit every spray can that they make now, with an adapter with the Rust-Oleum. But that'd be the answer to that.
Yeah, I've always found it really amazing, but not surprising in that you know, the graffiti writers would make tools for themselves. You have a question here. How do you get inspiration over and over again and not get meaning tired, probably?
Yeah. I actually have to dig for that. He seems to have just a wealth of inspiration.
Cartoons.
Yeah, you know, we're doing work, and so the customer wants this. I'm focused on that, but that's a good problem for me to have, you know. But to sit back and take a couple weeks off and then attack a wall, which we're about to do, but just for ourselves, is going to be really a breather for me, and looking to get some stuff.
Resmo.
Oh, hey, Resmo.
Yeah, he's a sleepy guy. Yeah. when he's not painting, like the guy, like whenever going into Phoenix, it's usually me. And it's like, where's your dad? Where's your dad? And here's the answer. If anyone's watching, you probably even say it with me. He's with mom.
I love your mom.
He's with mom. You know, he's with mom. Yeah, where was your pops at? Mom.
Girl.
You know, and it's you know, he got his living, he's doing his thing, and he's just, you know, he's probably on Netflix with mom, you know, or Hulu, you know, watching Dirty Dancing or Beat Street, you know, for the third. You know?
So watching a chick flick mostly with your mom.
Yeah.
I'll toss you my last question. When you're individually painting alone, do you ever have a feeling like, wow, something's missing here, someone's missing here?
You put your hand down.
I do. I do, because he should be there, and so, you know, it's a joke between me and him. You know, I'm the guy. I'm the dad that's, you know, if you're 15 minutes, what do they say? If you're 15 minutes early or something, you're late. You know, I'm so punctual, and he's still young and growing. And I'm saying this with laughing, but at times I'm like, where are you? But yeah, I like him to be there. It's good to have it. For me, I like to have another set of eyes, because sometimes I can be painting and kind of like, well, that looks okay. And then he may come in and goes, well, what did you do? And I said, oh my God, well, really? Was I supposed to do that? And so, but it helps me to have this extra set of eyes. Rare. Him, probably not so much.
Mira, Vatos, you know, that, I mean, such you've taken such good care of yourself. I mean, you guys could pass as brothers.
Oh man,
That's usually the
thank
thing,
you,
yeah.
man. Thank you.
Like an hour before this, I had a full beard. You know,
The camera's being kind. That's all I can say.
Hit the filter, the Instagram filter.
I try to roll with the punches, man, and I try to push the stress out because it comes, especially with these.
How has COVID
years have been
very quickly? How has COVID affected you guys and your community?
We've suffered some deaths, in our circle, sadly to say. And when it hit, our projects got put on hold. But then when the governor, when he lifted, then we were back to work, but everything was overlapping. But I'm probably an extremist, man. Someone said the other day, if there was one person that had a case, I'd wear a mask, and I'm kind of that guy.
Yeah.
So I try. We really try hard to do what we do. It may be overkill, but I rather do that. This is saying just for myself, everybody out there. But
even with our friends, like and yeah, these are definitely shout outs. But like I was gonna do some really cool merchandise with Spock. Recommend him, good friend of mine. But like I can't get out now because I got a baby girl, and it's like.
What if the doctor?
The doctor was like, they have no immune system. You have to be their immune system. So it's like, I see all my friends doing their thing, and it's like I want to go paint.
But Champ. So then, how are you channeling your creativity right now?
Oh yeah. Well, shout out to him again, and my dad, and my wife. All three of them were like, get a freaking tablet. I don't want a tablet. I'm fine with my my book here. I'm kind of stubborn. And I got a tablet, so I started making stuff.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of good work. He's a good cartoonist. Like he can get a Sharpie and where's your pencil lines? He just knocks it out. He's very talented. So I knew once he got this, it would just put him over the. I don't know if that's threshold, but it has its advantages, But we do still try to draw to keep that rooted because
the tablet and. I'm gonna say it, all right. For everyone who I've denied, my daughter's not gonna be into it. I have pictures from her. She's drawing now.
Well, she's
chicken scratches, but she's emulating.
Yeah. So he's a new father, so yeah, we're having fun.
Oh, I'm excited.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, given these difficult times, both of you are taking good care of yourselves and taking care of your family. And, it's sad that we are losing people, and it's a very challenging time for all of us. But, at the end of the day, love, community love, family love, above all, right? And so you guys are exemplifying that for us, and we really appreciate that. So before I sign out, I want to, thank you again on behalf of the museum staff and crew and all the friends that have joined us this evening.
Thank you, everyone that took the time and heard our amusing story. If anything, that makes good conversation, right? Thank you. Means a lot. Everyone. Crash, love you, brother.
Thank you, everybody. And check in with us. I'll be on Wednesday with